Do you want to know how to discipline a high-functioning autistic child? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, and child development all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about high-functioning autism. Talk a little bit about my real-life experiences working with autistic children, as well as the skills and principles that can help you be very successful as you are working with your autistic child. Of course, there is a spectrum with autistic people, and that means that everyone is uniquely different. But does that mean that all of the skills and words and principles that we use with our children need to be different? Not necessarily. In fact, the more that we can keep things uniform and the same in our home and keep them very predictable, the more successful we will be. For many years, I did therapeutic treatment care for troubled teens. Most of the teens were neurodiverse, as well as suffering from some trauma and some issues in their background. Many of them were autistic. We also had children in our home who had ADHD and ODD and RAD and multiple different things that we dealt with. Oftentimes there was a combination, so sometimes ASD and ADHD, for instance, and we helped them learn self-government. Now you may think that sounds a little impossible for a person who's neurodiverse and processing things in a very different way, but I assure you it is possible, especially with high-functioning autistic children. So when a person is self-governed, this means that they can give themselves instructions, accept no answers from themselves and others, accept the consequences and self-correct themselves, as well as communicate effectively by disagreeing appropriately with people when the need arises. Those are the 4 basic skills of self-government that I teach, and they are adult skills. I mean, let's be serious. We all know adults who don't know how to disagree appropriately or accept consequences very well. And this is because they haven't learned those basic skills of self-government for life. So when we did therapeutic treatment care, I had children of my own that were my biological children. They were very young at the time. We took in teens who were all between the ages of 12 and 18, and we started teaching them the 4 basic skills of self-government, as well as how we would correct them. And we told them that we would follow the procedure by a script, which meant that I would use the same exact words every time I pre-taught them, praised them, corrected them, or if they went completely out of control and then I needed to help them with an intensive teaching to get them back to calmness. I would use certain words and they could rely upon those words. That made a big difference for the autistic children that we were working with. When a person is high-functioning autistic, they actually have more ability to adapt than low-functioning autistic children by and large. And so it actually makes it a little bit easier to communicate with them. Now, I know that sometimes there's still high emotions, high anxieties, and sometimes there's a resistance to change. However, there can be more of an ability to change than if someone is low-functioning autistic. So that should make teaching them self-government even easier. So when we're talking about disciplining, we're talking about teaching them cause and effect, right? Well, the definition of self-government is being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. So that means you understand cause and effect, you understand yourself, you make plans for yourself, and then you follow through. An autistic person can do this because it's a very structured way of solving our problems and understanding cause and effect within the family unit. Now, if you've already subscribed to this channel, you've probably recognized that there are many videos on this channel that relate to specific skill sets, just like the ones that I mentioned earlier. Skill sets like following instructions, accepting no answers or criticism, accepting consequences, disagreeing appropriately, correcting negative behaviors, self-regulation, and calmness. Those are all things that people need to learn in order to master themselves or to become self-governed. So what do you do specifically if you have a high-functioning autistic child and you're wanting them to learn how to self-govern themselves? Because it's way easier to teach them to self-govern themselves than it is to feel like you need to control them. If you are going to try to control the behaviors of your autistic child, you will be in for a fight every single time. The best thing that you can do is proactively prepare the child and then consistently and deliberately and predictably follow through with what you told them that you would do. This means that you have to make sure that you stay consistent with your words and your teaching. It will probably actually take you more time to learn the skills and principles of self-government than it even will your autistic child, because children's brains are much more moldable. And when a person latches on to structure, like when an autistic person latches on to structure, they hold on tight. They'll probably see the logic in what you're doing with the self-government skills and principles long before you're actually proficient at them. So how do you roll this out? The first thing that you want to do is make sure that you have a conversation with your autistic child about your problem solving. And you might say, how are we currently solving our problems? Like when we have a problem with our after dinner time, or when somebody's upset, how are we solving our problems right now? And then we might want to say, is it effective? Is it really working? Does it make the family feel closer together or further apart? See if you can get them to assess those relationship bonds. I know that can be a little bit more difficult when a person is on the spectrum. However, usually if they're completely honest and calm when they're doing the assessments, they know when they feel closer to people and when there is a problem. When there's friction and anger, they know that that doesn't feel right. So if we could talk about calmness versus not being calm, that's going to be really important. And then if you can teach them what self-government is supposed to be and how they're supposed to learn to do those things themselves, but how as parents you have to help them practice ahead of time to get ready for when they're adults to be able to do those things themselves, then they should be able to get that as well. Then you'll start teaching them the 4 basic skills, and then you'll transition into teaching them about how you will correct them. Those corrections need to be totally predictable. So there are certain steps to a correction, such as you describe what happened, don't react. Emotional reactions do not help anyone, especially your autistic child. They will start to feel even more stressed and anxious if there is an emotional presence in any of the teaching. It needs to seem really common, like no big deal, and you're just helping them see or learn a new concept. So you describe what happened without taking anything personally. This is going to go back to your calmness. Don't worry, at the end of this video, I have a free gift for you that's going to help you with your calmness. Then after that, you explain a reason why that wasn't a good choice. Then you give them the proper thing to do. So what you should have done was, and you're going to draw upon those 4 basic skills and the steps to those skills. You'll pull out one of the steps that applies to what they should have done. Maybe they should have dropped the subject, or they should have kept a calm voice when they were talking, or something like that, and that might be in one of those skills that you're going to be bringing out. Then after that, you tell them what they earned. This means that you talk about the negative consequence that they have chosen to earn. They know ahead of time that they get to pick those things. Now, usually I use an extra chore. That's because work is the antidote for a sick character. And when a person is not willing to follow instructions from parents, that actually shows that there is probably a problem at that point with their character, or for sure the roles are out of place. So then you do some practices with them of doing things the right way, even go through some other scenarios for how this might work out in the future. There's even a problem-solving exercise called a SOTAS exercise that I teach in my TSG parenting course that you can find at teachingselfgovernment.com. And in that exercise, you're able to see that there are positive consequences for making the wrong decision and negative consequences for making the right decision, which is why sometimes we get tricked. So it helps them see the full picture of their decision education, which quite frankly gives your autistic child more of that reason why, so that they might care about making a change in their behavior in the first place. Telling them why really does matter, so don't just pull rank, but actually engage in education, and that will go a lot further with your autistic child. Now, if the child happens to go completely out of control, you also need to have a plan for that. There is something that I teach in my course called the Rule of 3, which helps engage that prefrontal cortex and helps the person choose to get calm when they're starting to go completely out of control. That's going to be very beneficial. So related to calmness and that Rule of 3, there is a free gift that I'd like to share with you. It is my Calm Parenting Toolkit. So at my website, teachingselfgovernment.com, there is a Calm Parenting Toolkit, and right now it is free. There's 10 tools for calmness. They're video classes, so 10 lessons that you can go through to develop more calmness for yourself and for your child, and you can have it completely free. It's not a full course. It's not the full Teaching Self-Government course, but it is a great first step on your journey towards self-government. So click on the link to that video now that's in the description below, and I'll see you there.